Hello, I'm Nick Liard.
And I'm Mark Gentili from Sudbury.com.
And this is Pints Politics, and we are joined by special guest Beth Mairs, NDP party, or NDP, because the party is in the last part.
Yeah, it's not the NDP party.
No, party. And
I mean, it could be. They are fun.
And she is the Sudbury candidate. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to, as in the name, Pints and Politics, we are going to order up some drinks, and they are coming over now. See, that's my signal.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
That's the thing. Where's Sam?
Sam is right there.
Here.
All right.
Cue.
Hey, Sam.
On cue. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
and
you.
your choice of drinks, Beth?
Yeah, cranberry and soda.
Cranberry and soda. Interesting choice. Why?
Oh, I don't drink alcohol, and
okay.
that's very delicious.
It is cranberry juice and good for you. Cleanses you out.
That's right.
What do you got going on there,
What
Nick?
do I got going on here? I have to go to the board. That's how complicated this is. It is a pina colada milkshake ISA from Collingwood. Yes, home or former home of the Elvis Festival.
Well, yeah, that's
Yes.
disappointing.
And you've gotten through another inch of your crack canoe, I see.
I'm still drinking the crack canoe that I've been drinking for the past hour. I am not a big drinker. I'm sorry to say.
And if people watch this, 10 days
Don't
down
apologize.
people watch this 10 days down the line, you're still drinking the crack canoe.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's very tasty, though. It is a good beer.
All right. Start with the questions, good sir.
All right. So,
Oh, wait, we got to cheers first.
Oh, yes, we do have to cheers.
Cheers is first.
thanks for joining us, Beth.
Did
Thank
I
you.
ruin it?
No,
already
not
had
at all.
some.
The
All
fact
right.
that you're
Yeah.
here means that it's not ruined.
Okay.
Oh, that does not taste like pina colada.
All right. So, you are new to running for federal politics.
Correct.
But you are not unfamiliar with the role of having a public life, of being a community activist, all these sorts of things. So
Yes.
I was kind of hoping that you could tell voters a little bit about what your past life helps you when it comes to the world of politics. What kind of things have you done over your life that that give you the skills you think are required to fight for the people of Sudbury riding?
Sure. Well, I got my start quite early when I was finishing up my Master's of Social Work in Ottawa. I worked with this woman who was a social advocate and was on the Social and Health Advisory Board for the city. And so under her tutelage, I went after, in Ontario, we had a new human rights code. And so we went after numerous cases in Ottawa for people who were on social assistance to try to set precedents regarding some prohibitive grounds of discrimination. One was related to age, one was related to gender, one was marital status.
Okay.
And so she set me at that as a young, kind of new social democrat. And that was very interesting. So that led me to be making calls to the, let me say at the time in the province, because these were provincial matters, I was liaising with Sheila Kopp's office, because for the Liberals, she was the critic of social and health, as well as Richard Johnson in the NDP. And so we worked in that sense. We also made presentations at council. And then subsequent to that, I was positioned, I did a placement in Richard Johnson's office. He was a very well-loved NDP MPP, as I said again. He was a critic for social and health services, and I did research out of his office for quite some time. Then I landed a job as a social worker in Toronto. And during that initial position that I had, I ended up at that time in Ontario, there was an opportunity to completely revise the Social Welfare Act and legislation. So I became involved on a province-wide level, building a coalition with grassroots groups and other agencies, as well as political players, as well as the media, to try to bring to bear change and pressure on the MPPs at the time. And this culminated in a day that we got them to devote to play a board game that simulated what it was like to be a woman on social assistance at that time. And we had used this game.
What was the name of the board game?
The poverty game.
Very straightforward.
It was, it was developed by a group of women in BC.
Or
and it was,
life.
Or life.
Or life, as it's better
Yeah, it
called.
was amazing because what happened was you, at the beginning of, your roll around the board, you got the amount of money that someone on welfare with kids got, and you had to go around. But when you landed on squares, it was more like, you have to put down an extra, I don't know, there's a school trip and you have to send money for pizza, or somebody stole, broke into your apartment and stole this or that.
That's an interesting way of trying to reinforce some of the principles. Did it have any effect?
Well, that was the interesting thing. There was this huge push. I mean, that was one initiative that I was personally very involved in.
Yeah.
But there were it was coming from all angles, that this opportunity we had to revise welfare legislation. And no, it wasn't, nothing substantive was really changed, which I found as a 30-year-old very disillusioning. And I switched my own focus at that point into neighborhood organizing. I thought, okay, I'm a bit disillusioned about making policy change and legislative change. Why don't I try and help people who are marginalized make changes in their community? And so I devoted myself to that. It worked extremely well. I worked in low-income housing with seniors. And a book came out of it, which called Helping Seniors Mobilize, a Handbook on Community Organizing. And that book resonated with lots of people. I was sent around the province, almost everywhere but Sudbury, to train people working with low-income people on this model. Which
was a long history of community activism.
Yeah, to put it shortly. I mean, and that's just bringing me up to. So that book ended up becoming a textbook across Canada to schools of social work, health promotion, gerontology, community development, and it's
This
been used
wasn't
as
the Da Vinci Code. This was actually something useful.
Well, I think people did find it useful because it was very practical, and it was a different way of looking at how you could improve people's health by giving them agency, having them define, instead of fighting a battle for them, working with them to having them define what the issues are, having them define what the strategies were, and having them do the bulk of the work that was going to bring about the change.
Sure. How did that prepare you for a life in politics?
Well, I mean, I have to skip forward about 30 years. So just to end that part of my life, I ended up leaving social work, taking a break. I left Toronto and I moved to Sudbury to pursue a canoe tripping business.
Yes.
Right? And then that segued into film.
It was WOW? No. Women.
The acronym WWE, Wild Women Expeditions.
That's it, Wild Women.
Yes.
That's what it was.
So I took a little bit of a break from direct political work, and then I slowly kind of came back to it over the last 30 years. I don't know if that answers your question, but I do have some very relevant experience from my life.
I mean, you have that community organizing, you have that working with people, with individuals, with issues. Yeah. These are all sorts of part and parcel with your CV, if you will.
Yeah, and I guess more recently, I mean, as I'm known in Sudbury, I've worked in the arts, I've worked in tourism, but and those are not political things per se, but I think what I've always tried to do is to create space for people whose voices are lesser heard to come forward through that work. And that I think I could describe that best through the work at Indie Cinema, but I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Well, right there you mentioned Indie Cinema, which is very cool. It's a great addition to Sudbury.
Yes, thank you.
But let's focus on some hypotheticals here. So the last 4 years of government, let's just say it has been made into a play. It is now showing at the Sudbury Theatre Centre. This is a three-part question. What will the
I'm as excited as you are,
right? What will the play be about? What is the tone or mood of the play? And how many people are actually going to see this play?
Yes. Okay. So, what a great question.
It's my specialty.
Nice. Well, yes. This will be... First of all, let me start with the end. This is going to be a story with an ambiguous ending. Kind of like independent film. It's not a... What's going on? They're building an addition? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, so this play has an ambiguous ending, kind of like a foreign film. It's neither happy, it's neither a tragedy. It's left for the audience to decide for themselves what comes next. The play is called, what is the play called? Waiting on Trudeau. And in the first act, it's a very complex play because it starts like a traditional Hollywood film where you have this hero. He's handsome, he's tall, he's dark, he's
Shirt
handsome.
is off.
He's charismatic.
His name is Nick.
It's more like melted ice cream.
He comes in like a Superman, and we get a sense of this, that there's been this looming presence over the company, and this person has come in like the hero, the traditional white male hero is coming in to save the day. But in the middle piece, there's a series of complications, and we learn that there's a darker side, because we believe at first that this person is the personification of goodness, and they are they're sensitive. They pick up on all the major issues of the day, the things that really, really concern people, and they seem to have these wonderful people skills, and they can say all the right things. And the country, in fact, is just swollen with excitement and hopefulness. And then what we learn in the second act is that our character is deeply flawed. Our character has these aspirations, but also has a tendency to have other influences, which some of them are money, some of them are dealing with power, and some of them are dealing with sort of historical, institutional forces that would come to play with anyone who was in that powerful position.
Time magazine.
No, not so much. But there are other looming forces like multinationals and things. So then we learn that there is a difference between the person who is being presented and the person who what is actually fueling them. And so then in the third act, what happens is that things start to fall apart for our hero. So
Did you feed her this question? It's like
I sent it through email, yeah.
Wow. I'm impressed that you're coming up with this off the top of your head.
Oh, okay.
I want to watch this play now.
Yeah, so in the third act, what happens is that our hero starts to step up. And so what the audience has known that has learned in the second act that there are all these influences that bring kind of almost like a sinister, disappointing aspect to the character and what they do. But now what's starting to happen in the third act is that those forces starts to trip up. So the person, for example, they're the uber feminist, but then we learn that that's sort of fraying at the edges because of his actual treatment that becomes public of certain women in his cabinet. The same thing around his environmentalism is something that he has triumphed, but he gets caught in that as well. He ends up, making all these promises, but in fact doesn't meet the targets, and then he does kind of what's considered the penultimate, antithetical act to that, which is to buy a pipeline with public money. So it all starts to fall apart, and then we're coming to the end, and because another election is coming. And so then we see the person ramping up with all of these complications and all of the truth kind of coming out, and we don't know at the end what the outcome is going to be, and whether he is going to make substantive, authentic changes, or is he even capable of that? Is this person being controlled by a machine? Or, that's the point that we're left at the end of this play.
My God.
Yeah.
It's like Samuel Beckett wrote that himself.
Please don't edit that. You don't have my permission.
After you, good sir.
I don't know. I may write that. You have said that I think in your campaign launch, you
Sure.
said that Northerners are often treated as second-rate citizens.
Right.
And I was kind of wondering if you could explain to us in what ways that they're treated that way, but also in what ways the NDP platform attempts to address some of that.
Okay, sure. So the first part is how, well, when I said that we were treated like second-class citizens, I was thinking not only on a federal level but also provincially, that there is a sense that, or not the reality that, if I think first of the province, that Northern Ontario we're a resource economy. Canada is a resource economy. We have the resources, but we don't have the wealth. The wealth is shipped to Toronto, and if we see through the media, we see through or national media, provincial, large media outlets, there isn't really an understanding of the situation of people here in the north, and it's not even covered. I mean, it's appalling. It's appalling that we don't get there isn't any sort of sophisticated or nuanced understanding of the situation in Northern Ontario. In terms of politically, I think a very good example of that would be the example of FedNor, where we have an economic development organization, as there are across Canada. This is the only one that's tightly controlled, that is not a standalone agency.
Okay.
And there's something to that I mean, I feel this over and over again when I think of politics in relation to Sudbury. I think that we have a very parochial system where somehow we are this, I don't know, I mean, a very close parallel would be colonialism.
Okay.
Where it's like we're this wealthy territory, and regardless of the ethnic roots of the people who live here, we still have that sort of paternalistic attitude. And I think it may be because I wonder if it's because there's a fear, because in fact, if we knew how powerful we could be, that we're the ones with the resources, that we could leverage a lot more influence. And that's one of the things that the NDP has tried to do. And I think Charlie Angus is a very good example of that in terms of speaking up and speaking out for the North and giving a perspective that's very much on the ground, so that it becomes harder for the public debates to exclude that understanding of some of the issues that we experience here. And with regard to, again, what the NDP, I think one of the reasons that the NDP resonates more in this region historically than many other parts, is because of the resource sector and because of the historical connection between the NDP and the union movement, and because we have a lot of unionized workers. And so they have certainly, the labor movement has found a friend and is one of the founders of the NDP. So there is a resonance there because we have so many people who are working in the mining industry, right, and in dangerous situations that need protection.
Well,
good.
Speaking on your love of wilderness and tourism.
Was that a segue?
That
was kind of a, yeah, okay.
Segue.
Was.
He's the master of segues.
Oh,
we call him
okay.
around the office. We actually call him Mr. Segway, but
I was just down in a mining shaft, but now I'm on a river. Yes.
Up on the surface level, where is your favorite spot to go in Greater Sudbury?
If I told you, I have to kill you. No.
Wow.
No.
That's a good way to campaign.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Knock,
Yes,
knock,
it's true.
hello. I'll tell you
True.
our platforms, but I'll have to kill you.
Yeah, that's right. Don't. Yeah. Stay political. Don't get personal. I love paddling many places throughout northeastern Ontario. I think my absolute favorite place to paddle is the North Channel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really extraordinary.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a good, short, sweet answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
You're welcome.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yes.
So what I want to know is, you've called the Liberals and the Conservatives the quote-unquote mainstream parties.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not sure I agree with that. The NDP is not in that camp, but
Okay.
that's not my question.
Sure.
My question is, you have said in that criticism, or I'm not sure that's necessarily a criticism, but in that characterization of them as
Sure.
mainstream parties,
Yeah.
you have said that they are more concerned with urban voters than with rural voters. And I'm kind of wondering, And I think you sort of answered it a bit when you were talking about Charlie Angus and about how you could bring that voice to Queen's Park, raising those issues and making them something that the media and Canada pays attention to. But what I want to know is, are there three things in the NDP platform that are aimed at bettering the lives of rural Canadians specifically?
Yeah. So three things that come to mind right off the top, because I have to tell you, there's like 60 points to the platform. But one has to
We have clock's ticking.
Yeah,
we don't
only
have time for 60.
15.
No. But I'm just telling you,
I'm
when I
teasing you.
pull them out. Yeah, I know you didn't have time for 7 years of my life, of my my relevant political life. Oh, you organized a province-wide coalition. Well, anyway, so one is rural access to internet. Right now, there are many parts of Northern Ontario that don't have that, and so what we're saying is this, in 2019, this is really essential. It's an essential service. So that's a part of the platform. The other one is a cap on the prices, because they are, and this is not unique to Northern Ontario, but they are amongst the highest, Canadians pay amongst the highest internet rates. So there's a cap on that, but that helps with affordability. In terms of rural, also transportation, because in bringing back the Northlander, certain sections of that makes parts of the northern province more accessible. And another one, I would say, again, I want to reiterate FedNor, because the purpose of FedNor is, or one of the strengths is economic diversification. And diversifying our economy, and because we are a resource sector, it's boom bust, and so we really need to, and I think smaller communities are really, or especially if we have like a pulp or paper town, these are places that really need that kind of diversification. And so by strengthening FedNor and increasing that, that's going to help a lot of communities, including very small places in rural.
Yeah, succinct and to the point. I like that.
Perfect. We have time for one more question, and so this will be a fun one. Let's just say we'll limit it to the four party leaders. So Justin Trudeau, Andrew Scheer, Elizabeth May, and Jagmeet Singh. They're all taking a tour of Laurentian University, and they
no idea where he's going with this.
They happen to stumble across the track at Laurentian University, the running track.
Okay.
And they decide, hey, you know what? Let's have a race, 100-meter dash.
Okay.
Who's coming in first and who's coming in last?
Oh my goodness, Nick Liard.
Is this sort of
fair question?
playing
Races
on my
happen.
on my
Races just happen.
Races like election races. They
Are you
happen.
kind of playing off my mountain biking challenge?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, so let me think about that. It's supposed to be a fun question.
Yeah.
It's what I want to say about this race is that it's not about who gets over the finish line first. It's about how they make it to the finish line. And that's something that if I could bring this back to my own experience running for the first time, that something that's extremely important to me is how you run your campaign. It's not about, there are a lot of people who are very motivated to, they will do, there's all sorts of backroom stuff, and there's bad apples in every party. People who are motivated in a certain way to win at any cost. And it's extremely important to me that how we conduct ourselves is important, and that the winning is not necessarily even at the ballot box. It's really, and with our campaign, and with the NDP platform, I really feel it's about winning the hearts of the people. Whether I end up as the MP or not, there's a lot of variables that are feeding into that, many of which I have no control. But would Jagmeet make it over the finish line first? I have no idea. I know that Elizabeth May wouldn't, because she has a mobility issue. But do I have a tremendous amount of respect for her? I certainly do. So I'd just like to leave you with that. way of reframing it.
A very thoughtful answer. That was not what you were expecting.
That
You
is
were
not.
hoping for something pat and something fun, and she just steamrolled right over you with her brain.
I love
She used
that
her brain,
answer.
and she
did.
went right over you.
Yes, my questions usually don't have brain. But that was an amazing answer. Usain Bolt would probably disagree. But that's all the time we have. Beth Mairs, NDP, Sudbury, thank you. Good luck in the upcoming election.
Cheers.
Oh,
Thanks for
thanks.
joining us, Beth.
Thanks.